So it's setting up. Just smile and look pretty.
Yeah.
Well, hello. Hello, everyone. I am very excited to be doing a YouTube Live today with Jessica Trahan. She is from Hatching Hope, and I'm a little embarrassed to say that I've been in the industry for almost 24 years and really didn't know a lot about Hatching Hope. And I think it's because of where I am.
Yeah.
And that you guys maybe weren't in our area yet, but I was really invested in you guys whenever we met at the Greater Gulf Coast Apartment Association. I was speaking at one of their events. Hatching Hope was there, and I got to speak with Keli and yourself, and really just fell in love with what you guys are doing. And I said, I've got to help spread the word of what this amazing group is doing, not only for the apartment industry, but just to respond to people, for humans, right? So for those of you who aren't sure about what Hatching Hope is a 501c3 disaster relief and humanitarian aid organization. They provide critical, immediate, and long-term recovery essentials to those impacted by disaster. To date, Hatching Hope has served over 500,000 families. Yes, that's amazing. Families, children, and pets, and they've provided relief to 9 different hurricane disasters. So a little bit about Jessica. Jessica is the assistant to the director. She started with Hatching Hope in 2019. And what's really cool is she was the first employee they ever had. And so she's kind of been there from the beginning, or at least from when they were ready to
early stages, early-ish, yeah.
The early stages. And you joined Hatching Hope, and then you've been able to deliver supplies and deploy help to apartment fires, hurricanes, tornadoes, and just be really a great resource for Hatching Hope. So thank you for joining me, Jessica.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here to talk about Hatching Hope. An hour doesn't seem like it's going to be enough time to get everything out there, but I'll do what I can.
I agree with you. I feel like I talked to Keli for about an hour when we met. I know it wasn't really an hour, but I was just so into it. And I was like, okay, I have to stop talking to you so that other people can actually talk to you. So I really appreciate her allowing you the time to do this with me and all of that. So tell me a little bit about Keli. And I know her son, they kind of founded this in 2016. Tell me a little bit about their situation and what kind of brought them to putting this together, and where did Hatching Hope come from?
Yeah, so it's actually Keli. She never corrects anybody, so most people wouldn't know. It's okay. She never corrects anybody. I'm usually the one that's like, it's Keli. But anyway, Keli and her son co-founded Hatching Hope in technically 2016 is when we got our 501c3 status. And it came from their own traumatic experience. They lost their house to a fire in 2010, and that she had worked in the multifamily industry for her entire adult career. And when they wrapped their arms around her during such a traumatic time, they just knew that they had to pay it forward. They wanted to be able to give back to the industry that they already served. And it happened when there was a huge apartment fire at an apartment here in Birmingham. And her son, Ashton, who was young at the time, a baby, like, probably, I think he was like 6 or 7.
Okay.
He wanted to do something to help. They were already on site, and he was like, hey, mom, like, we need to get our air mattresses because the clubhouse was full of people, impacted, I think, over 60 people. And I know she tells the story much better because it's her story.
Yeah.
It's her story. Yeah. So that's kind of how it ballooned. And so now we provide these disaster recovery kits to people that have been displaced from an apartment fire or other disaster, with air mattresses, sheets, toiletries, overnight recovery essentials. That way they can take immediate refuge. And it allows the apartment community to maintain their resident, or they can go to a sister property as well.
That's amazing. I think it's so cool when people in the midst of their own devastation are able to go, wait a second, how can I help others? And I think that's actually, I went through several hurricanes, Katrina being one of them. And I haven't, thank God, haven't had to live through an apartment fire myself, but I was a site manager that facilitated the recovery efforts of some traumatic fire events. And so
absolutely,
I find it healing when people who have been through that devastation actually start in helping others in the recovery process. And man, to see a little kid be able to do that, that's just heartwarming. And it just makes you go, yeah, hey, there is something good in this world, right?
He turns 20 this year, and I've known him for the past 5 years, and it's so cool for me to see him grow up as well. But he has the same heart and the same passion to help people that he had even then too. And Keli has the biggest heart of anybody I know, and I'm so blessed to know her and work for her and consider her, family at this point. So I've learned a lot from her throughout these past few years, and it's just love them so much. They are incredible people and are still the same that they were back then.
Well, I love that you shared their story, and I appreciate that. But tell us a little bit about your story and like what brought you to Hatching Hope and what made you interested in working with them, and a little bit about where you started with them.
Sure. Yes, I've kind of been exposed to this industry from a very young age. During Hurricane Katrina, my dad had a cleanup crew where for multiple years, because the city was absolutely devastated. So him and his cousin had a cleanup crew where they assisted families and the city to clean up. And so I remember visiting the area with him one time and just seeing, and this was well after. This was well after the storm, and just seeing how much was still leveled essentially, and how much I don't know. I just can't describe it. I was young at that point, and then I was in high school when the massive tornado came through Tuscaloosa. I lived right outside of Tuscaloosa in McCalla. My mom worked at the hospital in Tuscaloosa, and several of my friends lived in neighborhoods that were heavily impacted from the tornado. So that was kind of, those two events really inspired me to want to be able to do something with my life that helped others. And when I was in college, I kind of stumbled upon public relations, and they had a nonprofit specialization. It's like, okay, I think this is where my path has led me. I would love to do this. And then it was just kind of organic how I found Keli and Hatching Hope. My husband was actually working for a news station at the time, and someone had given him the job listing that Keli had put out. And he was like, well, this doesn't really sound like it's up my alley, but I think, my girlfriend would really appreciate it. And sorry, I want to put it on Do Not Disturb.
No worries. You're a busy lady. You have a lot of people to help.
All of our numbers are transferred to my cell phone, and so because I'm on my iPad, they're going to my iPad too. So
no worries.
But so I fell in love with, when I saw the job listing, I fell in love with the organization, what they were doing with Keli, and I really petitioned hard for her to hire me. I was the first hire for Hatching Hope. At the time, Keli was still the volunteer director, and it was her baby, and so she took a leap of faith and hiring me. I was still out of college, but I worked in the multifamily industry. I worked in an apartment community. I'd worked there for about 2.5, 3 years, and I loved it, but it was what helped me get through school as well. Yeah. And I was really considering, like, if I didn't find, like the perfect nonprofit staying in that industry, and I would have if I didn't find Keli, but I found Keli, and we just clicked. I think that we get along so well and we work well side by side, and I'm so thankful to be able to do what we do together, and how many people I've been able to help through Hatching Hope.
Yeah. And I mean, how amazing that you still get to work in the industry.
Absolutely.
But just in a different aspect. So that's pretty cool. So I know that Hatching Hope really does a lot to help multifamily communities, and you kind of said a little bit about it, but I'd really like to dig in to a little bit more of what you guys do. So when there's a disaster, first of all, how do you find out about the disaster? Are you just watching the news like everybody else and then you're responding, or how exactly are you finding out that, hey, we need relief in this area?
It's all very organic, really. Sometimes we do find out on the news. We subscribe to several news sources in our area because here in Birmingham, we are the response team. We're part of the volunteers that respond. And as far as our other areas, we do have volunteer-based chapters throughout the Southeast and the markets that we are in. That kind of similar situations with word of mouth. We have connections with fire departments, the news, local TV station, and journalists will reach out to us, just anybody really. So it's all kind of different, but very organic, and that's kind of how we hear about it. Or property managers will call us immediately if they've got a fire on their property. We'll respond. So those are the ways in which we respond. Then our volunteer-based chapters, or if it's here, we'll gather our kits and go and just do what we can to help the property. But not only that, we're enabling the multifamily industry to serve their community and give back to their residents as well.
Yeah, I love that. So one of the ways, if a property manager is going through some sort of disaster or devastation, they can just reach out to you guys directly then.
Yeah, they can. We do keep in very close contact with all of our chapters, so we can reach out to them if there is an emergency. They can contact us directly, and we can reach out to the local volunteers that would be responding and let them know, like, hey, what's going on, how many kits are needed, and they'll respond.
Okay, perfect. So I did put the QR code up for Hatching Hope on our backgrounds there. So anybody can scan that QR code. It'll take you right to their website. But Jessica, do you want to share, is there a web address or an email or phone number that you'd like to share? I'll let you kind of decide.
Absolutely. You can call us. Our phone number is 205-624-2424. And our email address, you can reach me or Keli, and mine is Jessica at hatchinghopecares.org. Keli's is Keli, Keli, at hatchinghopecares.org. Awesome. Or send us a message on Facebook. We're easily accessible. There are many ways to reach us, and we'll get back to you very quickly.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, so let's talk about the markets that you guys are in. So one of the reasons I wanted to have this conversation is I met Keli, and I was super excited about that conversation. And she and I had a conversation about you guys kind of starting up in New Orleans, because we didn't have Hatching Hope kind of hub in this area. And then all of a sudden I see something from the Apartment Association of Greater New Orleans saying, hey, Guarantee Restoration has partnered with Hatching Hope, and we're, coming to this area. And so I was like, this is perfect. And I know that something's happening, I believe, next week. Maybe Guarantee Restoration is doing a webinar or an educational session with the Apartment Association, and then they'll talk a little bit more about that. Is that correct?
Yeah, we're doing site visits. So I've worked in the New Orleans, Baton Rouge, Lafayette area in the past. So I've with Hurricane Laura, and but anyway, we have an association affiliate in Jackson, Mississippi, and Guarantee houses our kits there. The association raises the funds and they house the kits there. So that's kind of how Kristen Schmitz and Zach Klein got involved. It was actually a year ago this week, actually, that Zach with Guarantee reached out to me to set this up. So this has been a year in the works.
Wow.
And that we've been collaborating to get this. And so they did sponsor the kits very early on, and they've had the kits for the last several months and have been able to respond if necessary. But this is the busy time of year for everybody. We had to get through turn, and then we're in the middle of hurricane season too, but we finally getting down to Louisiana to share that, hey, we are here. You have these resources accessible to you. And yeah, just kind of put our face in front of people. It's also a class that their CEO, Shane, will be teaching for a credit.
Okay.
The
CEC credit.
Yeah, the C credit.
Mm-hmm. Do you know what date that is? Is that the 11th?
We will be in Lafayette on the 10th.
Okay.
And then we'll go to Baton Rouge and New Orleans on the 11th. Yeah,
Okay.
New Orleans is the 11th.
Yes. Okay. Awesome. So let's talk a little bit about kind of how that happens. So you mentioned that that one affiliate was raising the funds, and then Guarantee Restoration was storing the materials. And then you mentioned that here in the New Orleans area, Guarantee Restoration actually sponsored the first set of kits, and they put the money up front and they stored it. So how does it typically work? Like if there's another apartment association that wants to bring you into their market, what do they need to do?
Yeah, absolutely. There are several, ways, because there are costs associated with our kits, there and shipping and things like that. A lot of them will pull from their disaster relief budget if they have one, in order to be able to have the kits in their area stored at either their property, a vendor, or at the association offices. But or a vendor will come through and say, hey, I want to sponsor this first round of kits. Some associations will do fundraisers in order to be able to do that. So there are so many different ways to bring Hatching Hope to the area, and also to raise the funds for it. But yeah, it's just it's really easy and kind of organic as well, where they can reach out to us and we can give them some resources. And we have a lot of resources in the area too, where we can say, hey, well, we've already had some people in this, in this area wanting to do something. Let's get them connected with the association, or vice versa, and things like that. And then we build our volunteer team from there. And then, once we have the volunteer team built, they'll kind of connect with each other on how to deliver the kids.
Got it. So if somebody wants to be on the volunteer team, do they reach out to their local affiliate, or should they reach out to you at Hatching Hope?
Either one. Okay. They can reach out to their local affiliate for the area that we're in. We're in Mississippi, we cover the entire state of Alabama, Mississippi. We're in Florida, and now South Louisiana. Then we've got a chapter in St. Louis, Missouri. We just launched in Nashville as well. So yeah, we're all, a little bit of everywhere. And then we also work closely with the North Carolina Apartment Association. We've done hurricane work there. And then, we're hopefully getting ready to launch a chapter there as well. So you can reach out to the local affiliates in your area, or you can email us directly and we can put you in contact with your area.
So would you say you guys are hatching up everywhere?
That's right. I love that.
All right.
That's
all
good.
right. I like
Hatching
that.
some hope all over.
So let me ask you this. So let's talk a little bit about kind of the sponsorship. So to start, you need some funds so that someone can purchase the kits. Usually, what do you start with? Like 50 kits, 20 kits? How many kits do they normally start with?
Yeah, it's customizable really to how many you think you're going to need in your area, how large your area is. For South Louisiana, we started with 75. Okay. That was 25 kits per Baton Rouge, Lafayette, and New Orleans. And then once we deplete those, they'll do they have mentioned that they'll probably do another 75. Some areas like Birmingham, we usually keep 50 on hand at all time. And then Huntsville, 25 to 50. It really kind of depends on what you think that you're going to need, and how often you see fires too, because some areas don't have as many as others. Unfortunately, there are areas that do have more fires than others. So 25 to 50 is kind of the average.
Yeah. Well, I do want to mention that if anybody has any questions for Jessica, or wants to know anything more, or in addition to what we're talking about right now, feel free to just chat with us. And this is a YouTube live, so you can ask questions and engage with us. We'd love to answer your questions. But Jessica, so you start with the funding and getting those kits. Do you mind telling me about how much it is per kit?
At the moment, and we are working to kind of figure out, drive down our cost. But at the moment, we spend about $50 per kit.
Okay, so about $50 per kit, and depending on your market, usually between 50 and 75 kits in your area. And then you need somewhere to house these, and that's where a lot of times these people like Guarantee Restoration, people that have warehouses or somewhere where they can store these things, come into play. So tell me a little bit about how big these kits are, how heavy they are, because obviously now we're going to take them and hand them to a family. So how much room do they need to store something like this?
Usually, so I think of it in terms of how we're shipping them. So 50 kits will probably be about 3 pallets worth, and they're about 5.5 feet tall. So it's usually easier to move them around. If you have warehouse space, you can keep them on the pallet, but we do have associations that house them in offices, and they're about 15 pounds per box. And we're also kind of working on different packaging at the moment, because the boxes are like they're a 12 by 12 box. So they're a decent size, or 16 by 16 box, sorry. And so they're a decent size box, and we're working on other solutions to that as well, to help make it easier for people to transport them, and for us to transport them as well. But at the moment, they're a 16 by 16 box, about 15 pounds.
Okay, great. So remind me, you mentioned it quickly before, but tell me again, what comes in these kits?
Yeah, so it's all brand new items. They get air mattress, toiletries, linens, and a pillow. So, and the linens are actually donated by HD Supply. We have an amazing partnership with them. They donate all the linens and a lot of the toiletries as well. They come from like their hospitality line. And so we've been able to work with them to really help drive down the cost of our kits as well there, and with the linens and the toiletries. And so it's been a huge blessing to us, and to be able to serve more people as well. And so we're super thankful for that. But again, everything's brand new, and it's like a twin size mattress. Usually when we distribute, it's 1 per person. So even children get their own, and each adult gets their own as well. That's kind of how we, how the kits work, as far as like who gets a kit. So everyone affected gets 1 kit.
Wow. And you mentioned children, so I'll go to Tina. Tina asked a question in the chat. She said that she wanted to know if there's anything that you guys do beyond the kids that's special to reaching out to the kids who are impacted by these disasters. Is there any kind of special thing or special service or product that's provided specifically for children impacted by disasters?
Yeah, we can do, we call them like children's activity kits as well, because we do recognize that in the midst of, a disaster, that children are kind of, they seem they're a little lost, they're confused, they don't know what's going on. It's hard for them to grasp and understand. And so we provide them with backpacks that have, activity books, a small toy, things along those lines, and it's whatever is donated to us. To be able to keep them entertained and focused on something while their parents are dealing with, insurance loss, the property, and kind of those things like that.
Sure. Wow, that's amazing. So thank you, Tina, for that question, because I didn't know that, and the more I learn, the more I just love this organization.
Definitely. We love being able to serve children, and we love working with our local communities as well, where we're enabling the children to and teaching them how to give back and to serve their communities in times of crisis, and to be able to help others. We go into schools and kind of teach them about hatching hope and about giving back, and we allow them to write little love notes, notes of encouragement to leave in the kits and in the children's kits. They just say, things along those lines. Hey, I'm praying for you, or you've got this, you will get through this. Just a few words of encouragement, but it's by kids for kids. And we love that. That's one of my favorite parts of what we do.
Yeah. Oh gosh.
And
you made me well up there a little bit. Yeah. And the reason I had that response is because, like I said, my family was impacted by Hurricane Katrina. I was living in the Metairie area, and I was managing a property at the time and supervising a couple of other properties. And my parents lived in New Orleans, and I have 2 younger sisters that at that time were in elementary school. And my parents had 14 feet of water in their home and obviously couldn't go back. And in fact, the water was there for over 30 days. And so they relocated to the Houston area. And I just remember how much the people in that area poured into, specifically, they were in League City, Texas. And I remember how the people in League City poured into them, and the students in the classroom just loved on my sisters.
Yeah.
So, wow.
I love that. Yes. Wow.
I know, man, Jessica, we didn't agree to this part. Okay.
A lot of
Wow.
people don't realize the long-term impact that hurricanes have, because it's like as soon as the news coverage is gone, people essentially forget about it. And so one thing that we've strived to do with our hurricane work, we do hurricane work as well, where we provide 18 wheelers of supplies to areas that have been impacted, but and into the multifamily industry, where we serve entire apartment communities, but we're enabling them to serve their communities as well, to go to their churches, to go to their neighborhoods, to go to any of their surrounding communities and drop off supplies. Last year for Hurricane Ian, we delivered 2 tractor trailer truckloads, one to the Orlando area, where the Apartment Association of Greater Orlando, their teams divided and conquered and delivered to thousands and thousands of people throughout the area, because they had record-breaking flooding and that went on for weeks. And then the same thing in Fort Myers. We worked with the Southwest Florida Apartment Association and their incredible team and vendors and volunteers that just wanted to serve and give back, where we did the same thing and delivered all throughout the apartment communities that have been impacted. And the communities, I mean, there were entire areas that weren't accessible at that time, and most people do have to relocate because it's years before you can rebuild in areas like that. So a lot of people don't realize that long-term impact, and that most people do have to relocate. We've had a lot of people come up from Birmingham after Hurricane Michael that we've worked with in the past to help them kind of reestablish their footing in a new area. So it's a relatable that, like I said, a lot of people don't understand.
And I love the fact that, and that was going to be my next question. So you're kind of reading my mind here, but I love the fact that it's not just about providing resources to the residents of the apartment community. It's okay, let's provide them resources plus enough to share with those in the neighboring community, and allowing the apartment teams and the apartment associations and just the community as a whole to go out and bless one another. And so can you tell me a little bit about kind of outside of multifamily and those kits, what are some of the other things you do? You mentioned the 18 wheelers of supplies, and are there some other things that Hatching Hope does outside of multifamily that we should know about?
So as far as outside the multifamily, the biggest thing we try to be is a resource. If we don't have what they're looking for, some people will reach out to us for financial assistance. That isn't something that we do, but I've got an excellent resource list that I send to everyone when in times like that. If we're not able to provide it, I give them the resource list that has a list of charities and other organizations and government websites that do that and that can help them through that. And so we always strive to be a resource no matter what. Like, I don't know, and no is kind of not in our vocabulary. Yeah. And so that's the biggest thing we strive to do. We are just never going to be able to turn away anybody. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not our thing. It's our duty. That's what we're there for to do, is to help. It's our duty to help. It's our duty to give back. And that's kind of what we're hoping the multifamily industry will realize as well. And then they do. And a lot of people do, that it is our duty as an industry to serve our residents, but also to, as an individual, to serve your community when in times of need, and to be that neighbor helping neighbor. And I was actually in New Orleans. We were in Lake Charles area after Hurricane Laura a couple years ago. And I was just so overwhelmed with how compassionate the surrounding areas were in helping their families and their neighbors survive it, and get through it. And it was just so incredible to see that, to everyone coming together for the greater good. And so that's what we want to do as well. And to help other communities do as well. It's just kind of be a resource and help them help others.
Sure. Shad asks, how can multifamily supplier partners help support your cause? So I think we've talked about some warehouse space and some financial support. Is there anything else that they can do to help support the cause?
There are so many ways to help us. That is an excellent question. Thank you so much for asking. Yes, first and foremost, monetary donations go so far with the work that we do, as well as volunteering and providing space for kits, or even in times of hurricanes, we worked with suppliers to house the 18-wheeler truckload of pallets. I mean, when we get a truckload in, it's usually 46 pallets. And so when we were in Orlando, Chadwell Supply, at their newest facility in Orlando, helped us house that so we could bag it up and distribute it amongst the area. And then ResCorps in Fort Myers did the same thing. And so that's a good way to help when disaster strikes at large loss, is to be able to have a little bit of warehouse space for us. And then, volunteering, spreading the word. Tell your friends about Hatching Hope, about what they do. Follow us on Facebook, share our work, and just spreading the good word of Hatching Hope is another way to help. But also just being that resource, but volunteering when we do serve days or serve events, or being accessible when disaster strikes, when there is an apartment fire, and being able to deliver kits, or even just being a shoulder for someone during that time. And being there for people to kind of talk to and say, hey, it's okay, you'll get through this. It's all okay. So there's just so many ways to help and give back, aside from monetary donations.
Sure. So if a company wants to be involved in that, again, go to your website and just send you guys an email and say, hey,
Absolutely.
I own XYZ and I want to talk to someone about getting involved. Is that the best thing to do?
Absolutely. Oh yeah. So
scan the QR code or give them the website, Jessica.
HatchingHopeCares.org. Yeah, HatchingHopeCares.org is our website. We do have contact portal where you can reach us there. Or again, my email address is jessica@HatchingHopeCares.org.
Great. One of the other things is we have a question that says from AJ. He says, do you work with shelters at all to supply these types of kits? Is that anything that you guys ever do?
So we have worked with shelters in the past, especially large loss shelters, to provide them with supplies that they're needing. We do work closely with other charities. A lot of charity to charity work is kind of how we get things done, because there are charities that have supplies that we need, or we have supplies that they need. And so we do work hand in hand to work with shelters that are in need. If they need certain supplies, we'll help them get those.
Awesome. So if I am not an organization that has warehouse space, and maybe I don't have a lot of funds to share, what's the best way that I can help you?
Volunteering. Get involved with your local affiliate and volunteer. If you're able to drop off kits when there's a fire, that's a great way to help out. Again, spreading the word, following us on Facebook and sharing the work that we do is an excellent way to put us in front of more people.
Awesome. I have another question. I am not going to attempt this name though, because I already messed up Keli's name and feel like a total
that's okay,
garbage bag for doing that. So
don't.
Please forgive me, Keli. But so for the person who asked this question, I'm going to respect you enough not to try your name. But let's see. It says, I might have missed something because I joined a little late, but do you network with contractors? Ooh.
We are open to any sort of to anybody, really. I mean, yeah, we have. We've talked to people in the past that do contract work, but at the moment we don't have any of those connections. So we are open to it though.
Definitely. So that could even be another thing to add to your resource list in an area of, hey, this is somebody who can respond to you. But again, a lot of contractors have that heavy equipment that can help with moving pallets or storing things and things of that nature. So it sounds like that might be a huge help too.
Yeah, definitely. So I guess in terms of large loss, we have worked with other charities in the past that will do like the search and rescue. So they'll have the heavy machinery, things along those lines. And they would probably have the connections for contractors or for rebuilding if that's what they're asking about.
Okay. Let me ask you this. It sounds like you have a good footprint in the South. I mean, obviously, because you started in Alabama, right? So that makes sense, and kind of spreading out this way. It sounds like you're kind of moving your way up the East Coast a little bit. I mean, if anybody was listening, I guess, what are the hopes for Hatching Hope? Where do you want to be next? Is there a specific market that you're saying, look, we really don't have any contacts in this area and we would really like to stretch our arm over here? Does that exist, or is it kind of just wait and see what comes to us? Or
Yeah, it's really whoever reaches out to us, we're open to going anywhere and everywhere, really. So it just really happens again organically. I know I keep saying that word, but everything really just kind of falls into place. And the more people hear about us, the more like, hey, we want to bring you to our area. What do we need to do? So those are yeah, so anybody can reach out to us and we'll figure it out. If they can get a volunteer team together, and we'll send them some kits, really. I mean, we'll go anywhere.
Right. So let me ask you kind of what has been your, I guess, most memorable experience when responding to a disaster. I know I'm kind of putting you on the spot here.
Yeah, no, that's okay. I was prepared for this. I was thinking about this morning, but also it's easy, and I go back to it on many occasions. So when I first started with Keli, she was in the middle of still doing Hurricane Michael work. And so we in total did about 7 deployments to Panama City to serve the victims of Hurricane Michael. And one of those was Royal American, which is a management group in the area, and they're headquartered down there, and their office was completely destroyed. And so they had tents set up in their parking lots to be able to help their communities and their residents that had also been destroyed during that time. And so 2 years later, after Hurricane Dorian came through and hit the Bahamas, they said, hey, we want to give back. Y'all did so much to help us during Hurricane Michael. We want to pay it forward. We want to do something to help the people in Nassau, Bahamas, or in Freeport, and in the Bahamas, to be able to give back. And so they were able to get Nike to sponsor, to give a pair of shoes to every single child in the orphanage that took in the orphanage that was destroyed in Freeport. So we were in Nassau, Bahamas, and it was actually Keli's family that lives down there. She has family there, and they were helping with the orphanage as well. And so Nike sponsored a pair of shoes for every child in the orphanage. And then Royal American also sponsored children's gifts for everybody in the orphanage as well. And so they flew us down there on their plane. We were packed. We had their chief engineer, their marketing person, the lead marketing person, and their CEO and president in the plane with Keli and I. And we were stuffed in with these orange Nike bags of shoes and toys. And so we delivered Christmas gifts for them. It was an incredible experience, and one I will never, ever forget. But it was a very incredible experience to be able to be there and to witness the children receiving these gifts, but also to be able to kind of help cultivate this, and knowing that Royal American, who we served very early on, did this 2 years later, and so it was just awesome. It was really cool.
Yeah. So thanks for sharing that. I think that just the fact that you're able to kind of connect with so many different organizations that see a need and want to fill it, and then you get to be part of that joyous occasion of blessing children with that is really cool. So what an amazing job. Do you ever I have to tell you that I have a heart for service similar to what it sounds like you do, but I also you can tell, get affected emotionally. And so tell me
hard not to.
For you and for Keli and for Ashton and anybody, I mean, how do you separate that response and that kind of servant attitude from like not letting it get you down or depressed? Like, you're there to hatch hope, but it's also very devastating and sad. And so how do you kind of maneuver through that, and maybe share that with some of the people who maybe are going through their own devastation? Like, how do I find hope in this?
It's definitely bittersweet. And there have been many times when we have been on site and we are bawling, we are in tears, we're sobbing, but we also know that we're there to do good things and we're providing them with a little bit of comfort in such a dark time. And so that's kind of what gets us through, to know that we're helping and hopefully doing everything, and are doing everything that we can to help them in such dark times. And so it really, it's hard to do, but we also know that we are doing good work and we want to continue to do good work. And so, but yeah, we've been there. We cry a lot.
Yeah, I bet. Oh my goodness.
Happy tears and sad tears.
You need to do a partnership with Kleenex and just
just
carry them
there's
around.
a good idea.
Just carry them around. Well, let me ask you this: what's the biggest need or challenge that Hatching Hope is having right now?
We are. That's a good question. I know that we're such a small team, and so as far as like the work that we do at home base, we're such a small team. I think one of the biggest challenges is resources. Continuously having resources in the areas that we serve, volunteers. And maintaining our contact with the volunteers sometimes can be difficult, especially when there's a lot of job turnover, because a lot of our contacts are with the multifamily industry. And so we will struggle with maintaining the contacts within organizations if there's turnover, if they're moving vendor, switch to from a vendor to on-site management or vice versa, if they're now a vendor. So just maintaining those types of connections.
Like a database.
Like having a database and being able to keep up with our volunteers can be difficult sometimes, but we do our best. And there's also a lot of people. There's always new people coming in wanting to volunteer as well. So, that would probably be one of our biggest challenges at the moment that we're facing.
Sure. So do you have, and you could tell me to mind my own business, but I just think, you never know who might be listening, and you never know what access or resources they have. So what kind of database do you guys have to keep track of that? Is it kind of just like an Excel spreadsheet or something like that? Or do you have a system? Like, what if somebody could provide you with some sort of system to help better control that data? Would that be helpful to you, or you think that's not necessary?
Yeah, absolutely. So right now we do keep up with everything on Excel or Google Docs.
Yeah.
We are looking into volunteer databases as well, or nonprofit management databases. So if people are listening, have recommendations, if you're running a nonprofit, which ones work smoothly for you, that is something that we are actively looking into and researching as well. But we want to make sure that we're finding the one that's right for us. So we do everything right now on the Excel and Google, and also text message chains. We have huge group messages to keep up. Our Orlando a chapter has a big text message where they communicate everything Hatching Hope related to. And that's great for us. We love being able to do that. So it's pretty simple too. But as far as like keeping up with volunteers and having volunteer profiles and things like that, we are looking into a database and would love if someone has any resources to reach out to us.
Sure. That's awesome. Well, hopefully someone will hear this and think, oh, like I have a good suggestion, or I can help in this way, whether it be providing it or providing some financial help for that, or creating something. You just never know who might.
Never know. Absolutely.
Yeah. So let's just kind of go through, as we've been talking, I've been thinking as an on-site manager, if I was listening to this, what are like 3 to 5 key takeaways for me? And I'm going to kind of run through. You've been on site, so throw in some more that you have. My first thing was, if I'm an on-site manager, I want to add Hatching Hope to my emergency plan. Absolutely. I want to have their contact number, and I want to make sure I include that in my emergency plan, and everybody on my team knows that they exist and how to reach them. So this was kind of one takeaway for me. The other thing I thought of is, if I'm in an area where this doesn't exist, I need to reach out to my association and say, hey, what can we do to bring Hatching Hope to our area so that we can respond to fires, hurricanes, tornadoes? What other flooding? It sounded like, what other disasters do you guys respond to?
Yeah, those are the main ones. And really, it's on the multifamily level. It's really anytime a community is impacted by some sort of tragedy, really. So where you have residents displaced, we had one instance where a car ran into a building and displaced, 4 families. So it could be anything like that. So anything that would displace a family. And a lot of times when there is an apartment fire, it's smoke and water damage that displace them. And they, and you can't get back in until the fire inspector deems it approved and the proper protocols have been met, and that the water's gone or smoke damage is taken care of, so anything really.
Yeah. Okay, great. So do you partner, let's say, because there's some small areas where there isn't an association near them or an active association. So if I don't have an association near me, then what? Do I reach out to you directly and go, okay, I want to bring this to my area, but I don't really have someone to facilitate that? Have y'all done that before, or like, what would your suggestion be?
Yeah, so I try to think about what we do in Alabama, and so we do cover the entire state, and the associations are broken up into Huntsville, Birmingham, Montgomery, Mobile, and so there are areas that are further away that are in the Birmingham area that are further away from us, but we do still service that area. Like Tuscaloosa is a bigger town, but they're kind of loosely tied to the association. But, with it being a college town, they still have disasters and occurrences where they need the kits. And so if a volunteer is able to deliver from the area, that's kind of how people can do, you can do that, where a volunteer will pick up in Birmingham and take to Tuscaloosa, or properties can keep kits on site as well from the association. So really, I mean, it all depends. We can work something out if there's an area that doesn't have an active association to where they have the resources needed.
Got it. So a management company could essentially reach out to you, or an owner could reach out to you and say, hey, I want to buy 50 kits for my portfolio or something like that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Definitely. We just ask that if there is a neighboring fire or a sister property, that it's not just used for members, number one. So we're not limiting when we work with associations, we're not limited to just association members. So we serve every apartment community. And so if they had like a sister property or a community that was in their area, that they would deliver those kits as well. So we don't want to limit it just to that company or just to the association as well.
Yeah. Share the wealth.
That's right. Neighbor helping neighbor. That's how it works.
That's what
we try to teach everybody.
That's why we call them apartment communities, right?
Yes. And multifamily.
Yes.
Highlight that family.
Yes, exactly. Okay. So back to my list. I want to add Hatching Hope to my emergency plan. I want to reach out to my association or an organization in my area, maybe a supplier or somebody who I think could be a great partner for you to bring these kits to my area. I want to be on the volunteer list myself, because you give what you get, or you get what you give. So I want to make sure that I return the favor. Anything else that a site team you think like, hey, these are things that they should do to make sure that Hatching Hope becomes part of the response to a disaster or emergency?
I think you hit it. I think that it's very important. I know it's hard to be prepared. You never know what the situation is going to entail, but to just have a plan in place, know what your steps are, and like you said, add Hatching Hope to your list. Make sure we are one of your contacts that you can reach out to, especially if we're already in your area. Give us a call, and we'll be there. But yeah, I mean, I think that's the main point, is just have us a part of your resource list, or you're part of your plan.
Yeah. I thought about this while we were talking, that not everybody has a servant attitude, and not everybody, says when something's going wrong, let me see what I can do for others. So I do want to take a moment to just kind of talk about the what's in it for me. Why should I, as a property management professional want to have this available. And I mean, I think it sounds obvious, like if there's something going on, we want to be helpful, but I know in responding to emergencies myself as a site manager, as a property supervisor, and in my own life, that with emergencies and disasters come frustration, irritation, anger, right? And so can you talk a little bit about maybe, and maybe I'm off base here, but what has been your experience when on-site teams have been able to provide that? Do you find that have you ever had a situation where it's kind of dropped the hostility, or it's created a better environment for the on-site team who's trying to work because they were able to provide this resource? Is that, or is it just creating another thing for me as a site manager to now have to manage?
We've never had that experience. Yeah. In our experience, I think it's hard to be on site, especially if you work on site. I think it's hard not to want to help your residents that have been displaced. And from my experience, I had amazing relationships with my residents. I knew every single person that lived on that property. I knew what their favorite color was, but I do have a servant's heart. But I think that that's hard not to form those type of connections to your residents. And so once you form those type of connections, you want to do everything in your power to help them. And so everything that we've come across is everyone is usually on site in the event of a fire. All the maintenance team is there. Everybody from the office team is there. And a lot of times they're the ones that have been affected too. If they live on site, their home has been destroyed in a fire, or they've got massive flooding in their apartment, and they have nowhere to sleep or nowhere to go. And so they've been in that position and know how to help and know how to give back. But I don't think that anybody would ever not want to help. And especially when it is such a critical need that we found. And that's kind of why we've been so successful, I believe, because Keli and Ashton, they recognize that need between insurance and between the disaster, that, hey, these people just really need somewhere to sleep tonight. They need to be able to sleep on something a little comfortable. They want to be able to brush their teeth and brush their hair, and to just have some sort of peace during that, whether they're at a friend's house and have to sleep on the floor, they at least have the air mattress. They've got something to cuddle up with. The children have an activity. We also serve pets. We have pet kits that have food and water bowls, a little bit of food, a leash, so it's just a little bit of comfort during a dark time, but allows them to have some sort of accommodation until they can either insurance kicks in and they're able to refurnish their apartment, or to move into a new apartment, or get into a hotel, or anything like that.
Yeah, I just think as an on-site professional, I can think, if you can help your own team members, first of all, it's going to speak to their soul. Second of all, it's going to allow them to now at least get some good rest so they can help in the recovery. And then it's going to relieve that tension sometimes and that uncertainty for your residents, where you can at least hand them something. And I can't fix this. I remember I felt like the fire queen. I had so many fires. I felt like every property I went to, we had a fire, but there was one specific fire that was just so incredibly devastating. We lost a third of the building. And I remember just standing there, and we had been, as a team, kind of working in different aspects to try to account for everyone. And we were getting water and we were trying to get aid, but there was just a moment of where you've done everything you possibly can. And there's nothing else that you can do but just stand there and watch the building burn. And you're like,
that's hard. That's hard to do.
Right? Absolutely. It's so hard, because most of us are problem solvers, right? That's why we do well in property management. It's like, we see the problem, we want to fix it. And, there's only so much you can do. And so I think being able to have that next thing of no, I can't promise you what's going to happen for tomorrow, but here's what I can do for you tonight. I think that is just an amazing resource for on-site teams. And kudos to you and to Keli and to Ashton and to all of the volunteers, all of the suppliers, all of the people who donate and make this happen. I know for a fact that Hatching Hope has helped me I didn't know it was Hatching Hope, but I know you responded to Hurricane Katrina, you responded to Rita, you've responded to Ivan, you've done these things, right? So I know that you've had your hands in it. And so I thank you as someone who's received that. And I hope that I can pay it back. So I definitely want to make sure that I'm on the Hatching Hope volunteer list, and anything I can do, I want to do that. So once again, as we wrap up, scan the QR code to connect with Hatching Hope. Give us your website again.
hatchinghopecares.org. And
then
Jessica at hatchinghopecares.org.
Okay. And you were going to say, I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just going to ask you if there was, if you needed something for me to be able to send, if you're able to send out something that has our information, or
Absolutely.
if the QR code is sufficient, or.
Yeah, absolutely. Send it to me. And this is YouTube Live, so we can go in afterwards and kind of add some additional information.
Oh, perfect.
So yeah, we'll put links and anything you want. You send it to me, and
perfect.
I'll figure out a way to make it happen. And
Thank you.
And I won't be able to be at the October 11th event because I have my own event going on that day. That's why I wanted, I'm rooting for you. Feel free to use my name and say Katie's on the list. You should be on the list too. Whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
Use me in any way you think necessary. I'm going to say we've got about 4 more minutes, so I'll ask you one more question. But if we have any more questions in the YouTube group, now's the time to get them in. So we've talked about people volunteering their time, their money, warehouse space, reaching out and saying, hey, I want to help facilitate and respond, deliveries, things of that nature. What do you think is the easiest way for someone to get involved? The easiest way.
I feel like it's all pretty easy. I think it seems easy to me. I guess it's just to do something, really. That's kind of what we're trying to drive home here recently. Just to do something, whether you've been impacted by a fire or you haven't, or your community has, or you just want to do something to give back to your community. There are so many ways to help. The easiest way that you can get involved right now is to go follow us on Facebook and to share our work. That's the easiest way. And then just send me an email if you want more information. And I'm happy to tell you all the ways that you can give back, as far as where to donate or to where to volunteer. If you're in Birmingham or Alabama or close to it, we've got a serve day coming up where we'll be packing kits. So that's October 14th. It's at our warehouse in Alabaster, Alabama. So if you're close by or want to drive to us and come see us and meet us in person, we would love to have you. So I guess just the first thing to do is just follow us on Facebook and scan the QR code to our website and check out what we're doing.
Yeah, I love that. Follow their Facebook page. What's the serve day in Alabama? What date?
October 14th, 9 to 12. 14th,
9 to 12. And you said Alabaster?
Alabaster, Alabama.
And then make sure that you share this YouTube. Share this message with as many people as you can think of, because anyone can help. You don't have to be in the apartment industry to help Hatching Hope. This is just a great way to help a lot of people in a small area, small concentrated area, but anybody can help Hatching Hope. And I think the message of Hatching Hope, their efforts and what they're trying to accomplish is amazing. And with just this one opportunity of going, yes, your life is uncertain right now. Yes, you've gone through this devastation, but here's something to help get you started. That's what hatches that hope.
That's right. Yes, I love that.
So much, Jessica. Do you have any last words for the group? Anything you want to say, or you think that we left out that we should have said?
I think we've covered a good bit. Like I said, I could talk about Hatching Hope all day, but thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much to Guarantee Restoration for helping bring Hatching Hope to Louisiana. We love the Guarantee team so much, and we're so excited to meet a lot of them in person. I've been dealing with a lot of with most of them over the phone and Zoom the past year as we've been working on this plan. So I'm so excited to meet them in person. I'm excited to meet everyone in South Louisiana and to talk more about Hatching Hope and what we're doing and how you can get involved. And so, yeah, I just really hope we see a bunch of people next week at the meetings. And yeah, just thank you so much for listening to me today as well and
Absolutely.
being here.
It's been a joy, and I want to thank all of the affiliates in Louisiana, Baton Rouge, Lafayette, and New Orleans for bringing Hatching Hope to our area. This is an area that needs them, and so we appreciate that. Thank you, Guarantee Restoration. Thank you, Jessica, and thank you everyone who's been involved in today's conversation. Thank you for your questions. Have a great day, guys, and be inspired.
Yay.